Hello guys and welcome to another episode of What's Up G.
Preview.
So this is the part 1 of my history facts about the Chinese Mestizos in the Philippine history. But did you know that Chinese Mestizos is the Philippine term for persons of mixed Chinese native ancestry? Yes, you are right, because since 1898 there has been no legally defined Mestizo class which we may use as a basis for understanding the Spanish usage of the term. From the time that Chinese Mestizos became numerous enough to be classified separately, the population of those parts of the Philippines that were controlled by Spain was formally divided into 4 categories. Number 1, those who did not pay the tribute, and the last 3 who were considered tribute-paying classes. The Chinese was first and last a commercially oriented moneymaker, and at the other extreme was the Indio, whose concerns were chiefly agricultural. The division tended to be twofold rather than threefold. In general, the Mestizos had most of the same rights as the Indios, while the Chinese usually did not. In terms of geographic mobility, the Chinese were usually restricted, while the Mestizos, like the Indios, were relatively free to change residence. Likewise, in local government, the Chinese could never participate, but Chinese Mestizos, individually and corporately, could and did participate with the Indios. The maintenance of 3 categories in orderly fashion was provided for the Spanish legislation. Legal status as Chinese, Mestizo, or Indio by the terms of legislation was not ordinarily a matter of personal orientation or choice. Rather, it was the status of the parents, particularly the father, that was most important. Mobility between groups was possible for individuals and families, by legal action or more commonly by intermarriage. The basis for intermarriage was that both parties be Catholic. Purely in terms of his ancestry, Rizal might be considered a 5th generation Chinese Mestizo. Chinese merchants carried on a rich trade between Manila and the China coast. Chinese established themselves at or near Spanish settlements, serving them in various ways as provisioners of food, as retail trader, and as artisans. The Spanish dilemma was quickly apparent. Unable to live without the Chinese, they were equally unable to live with them. The Chinese population was many times larger than that of the Spanish, further inciting Spanish fears of Chinese revolts. The result was a compromise in Spanish policy between economic interest and political security. Spanish policy thus included attempts to convert the Chinese, sometimes making use of such endowments as reduced taxes and fewer restrictions on travel and residence for those who accepted the faith.
Preview.
Oh hi there, you're still watching What's Up G, so to continue our part 2, let's go with it. So Chinese Mestizos had been recognized as a distinct element in Philippine history, but did you know that it rose to prominence between 1741 and 1850? They became famous primarily as landholders and middlemen, wholesalers of local produce and foreign imports. Did you also know that the Mestizo impact was greatest in Luzon, Cebu, and Iloilo? Yes, you are right. The Mestizo numerical strength were in the central Luzon provinces, primarily Tondo, Bulacan, and Pampanga. Meanwhile, the largest bodies of Mestizos in Visayas were those around Cebu City. Did you also know that Chinese Mestizo was an active agent of land selling and wholesaling activities in central Luzon? Spanish fighters during the early decades of the 19th century especially noted the landholding and wholesaling activities and the wealth of the Mestizos of central Luzon. Zuniga, in particular, repeatedly points out the role of the central Luzon Mestizos as leases or inquilinos of rice-producing lands. Question is, what is inquilinos? In historic Chilean agriculture, an inquilino is a laborer indebted to a landlord who allows him to form a farm in parts of his property and who in exchange works without the pay for the landlord. The inquilinos provided key manpower to carry out tasks like the gathering of livestock and slaughter.
Preview.
Hi Hi guys, it's me again and you're still watching What's Up G, and now we are on our part 3 and we are going to discuss about Pacto de Retro. Zuniga particularly notes a pattern of mestizo money lending and acquisition of Indio lands in Bulacan. The classic instrument of land alienation was the Pacto de Retro, or contract of retrocession, by which the Indio landowner pawned his land for ready cash with an option to repurchase it at a price equal to the amount of the loan. Since the Indio could seldom repay the loan and redeem the land, then it went by the default to the mestizo. As an example, he cites Bulacan, where the mestizos of Bigaa, San Isidro, Bukawi, Polo, and Maykawayan had become owners of some of the best rice-producing lands through use of the Pacto de Retro. As early as 1768, there were laws against the use of the Pacto de Retro because of the land alienation problems concerned by the Spaniard. Therefore, Spaniards attempt to replace the mestizo moneylenders by advancing money to growers. However, it was a short-lived experiment. Through the power of some mestizos, even government representatives simply gave in to the mestizos' wishes.
Preview.
Hi there! You're still watching What's Up G, and now we are on our part 4. Did you know? By mid-19th century, the total population of the Philippines was around 5 million and the mestizo population was estimated to be 240,000.53, forming about 5 to 6% of the total Philippine population. However, it was the Chinese Mestizos who had the biggest fortunes in the Philippines. Are you also aware that the Chinese Mestizos are highly commended for their wealth and strong economic position? During the 19th century, they have been substantial land interests, monopolized internal trading, worked for foreign traders for imported goods, and did practically almost all businesses in town. But here's the sad thing. Chinese mestizo landholders treated the Indios harshly. They gave them little money while making them work hard. So sad. Bread in one hand, the stick in the other was their motto, and profit is what they value the most. But here's an interesting fact. It is said that it was the Chinese mestizos who made Cebu wealthy. There was a particular important group of mestizos in Cebu City who are descendants of the Chinese inhabitants in the city of Parian. They were rich, industrious, and very active merchants who boosted the trading economy in the region. Cebu could not even have survived without them. Did you know that social prestige is attached to being considered a Chinese mestizo? The mestizos' wealth and the way they spend it made them the arbiters of fashion in Manila and other places. Feti were known as wise investors, but they were also fond of gambling and ostentation, especially in dress. Also, mestizo families often expended great sums of money on feast days. In these things, they were a model for the Indios. Because of all this, the great prestige name to be attached to the name Mestizo. With the rise of the mestizos to a position of affluence and prestige, did you know that Spaniards feared the possibility of revolution in their Philippine colony? To address their fear, and with Spain wishing to retain the Philippines, they implemented a strict policy of divide and rule. The brains and the money of the mestizos did not allow to become allied to the numerical strength of the Indios. But here's the big question. Why would a mestizo want to revolt against Spanish rule? They enjoyed prosperity and a certain prestige under the Spaniards. However, it might also make them desire richer prizes, ones that exceeded the opportunities allowed by the Spanish policy. In that case, the mestizo was likely as the Indio to revolt.
Preview.
Hi, you're still watching What's Up G, and now we're on our last part of our history facts about Chinese Mestizo in Philippine history. For the Mestizos, the latter half of the 19th century from 1850 to 1898 was a period of occupational rearrangement. This phenomena was brought by changes in the policies of the Spaniards, such as allowing for free enterprise and immigration with almost no restrictions. The Chinese population in the Philippines soared to 100,000 and they spread all over the country. The Chinese proved themselves as tough competitors in terms of trade. The Chinese even brought international trade in the Visayas. Historians tell us that the periodic system of purchase and distribution of the earlier mestizos and indios were no match of the Chinese sari-sari store. Hence, local mestizos and indios were overwhelmed, which forced some to shift their focus on agriculture while others became craftsmen. In short, the influx of the Chinese led to occupational diversity. Did you know the term Filipino was traditionally used by Spaniards to refer to a Spaniard born in the Philippines? However, in the 19th century, there was a societal metamorphosis that led to the creation of a specifically Philippine society.
Preview.
I hope you've enjoyed our episode of Philippine Facts about Chinese Mestizos in the Philippine history, and I'm hoping to see you again on our next episode. Again, this is What's Up G saying goodbye and have a great day. Bye! Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and thank you. Again, this is What's Up G.